After a bye week, the Wildcats take on Northwestern State at home. I'm Max Preston.
And I'm Grant Boone. We will preview that game against the Demons, and we'll take a look at our top 5 plays of the year. It's the Adam Dorrel Show right now. Welcome to the Adam Dorrel Show from the JMC Network studios on the campus of Abilene Christian University. I'm Grant Boone alongside ASU senior journalism major Max Preston and the head football coach at ASU, Adam Dorrel. After 2 straight wins, then a week off last Saturday, ASU football is back in action today, trying to drive the Demons of Northwestern State right out of Wildcat Stadium. Kickoff set for 2 o'clock. Coach, I called it a week off. It really wasn't a week off for your coaches last week, was it?
No, it wasn't. We've been working extremely hard. Myself and some of the coaches stayed and facilitated practice for a few days, gave the players a few days off, and then the majority of our coaches, about 10 of them, went out on the road recruiting, high school recruiting, junior college transfers, and so it was a very busy week.
So, Coach, you're 3-3 in conference right now. You have a chance to still have a playoff berth. Are you talking about your position in the standings, or are you just focused on the game itself?
Yeah, honestly, we don't talk about the standings at all, to be really honest with you. I feel like where we're at with our program and what we're doing right now, I think the focus is better left on going one game at a time, and we're focused on Northwestern right now. And so, to me, in my experience as a head coach, that stuff always takes care of itself. And so if you can focus on trying to go 1-0 each week and focus on trying to get better as an organization, if you can keep the focus there and not look too far ahead, I think it certainly helps your team.
Control what you can control.
Absolutely,
right?
yep.
And that is the game today against Northwestern State. We will preview the game against the Demons a little bit later on. Glad you're with us. This is the Adam Dorrel Show.
As we welcome you back to the Adam Dorrel Show, you've noticed we've had a bit of a set change, and also we don't have Coach with us for the segment 2. We have our director, Hutton Harris. We've decided to talk about our top 5 plays and give our MVPs to this point in the season. Hutton, you're our guest, so why don't you go first?
Thanks, Max. All right, let's go to my 5th play of 2018. We'll go to the 3rd game of the year in Houston Baptist. This is a defensive play by Quayshawn Washington, as we can see it here on the screen. This was a pretty big play for me because, as you can see, he gets in the backfield pretty quick, forces a fumble, gets the ball back for the Wildcats, and then they go ahead and score on the ensuing possession. And this is their first road win of the year. Number 4 would be Jeremiah Chambers, as we again go to the defensive side of the ball. He puts Roquan Dickens, the star running back for IW, in the backfield pretty far there, and forces a fumble, which again kind of got the crowd excited. And once again, we would go down and score on the ensuing drive. Jeremiah's had a fantastic year, and and so pretty exciting play. My 3rd play is coming from homecoming a few weeks ago, Kalen Sadler. And as you can see here, Luke and Kalen have a pretty good chemistry. Kalen just gets behind the defender there, and as Coach said last week, this was called a smoky route. Yeah. Again, really exciting play for the Wildcats. I think when you can stretch the field early in the game, it really opens up for Billy McCrary and the running game for the Wildcats.
By the way, Kalen, senior from Lawton, Oklahoma, had not scored a touchdown until this season. Now he's got 3. He's been a big part of this resurgence in the last month.
Senior leadership
and
right there.
And I do think that play really, again, opened up the really signature win for the Wildcats. I mean, it was a really big touchdown. All right, number 2 on my list. Let's stay at home, and let's go to Josh Fink. 14-yard touchdown pass and catch here, but you can see it's kind of a squirrely tipped pass here. Yeah. Really, so many things could have happened in the negative light for the Wildcats here, but at this point in the game, ASU was down 24-17, and a game that they really should have taken care of early. They were up 17-3 early or something like that, and again, it was really exciting to see Josh Fink, who's a mild-mannered person, to be so excited, and so that really highlights to me what that game meant for the Wildcats to come back and win their first home win of the season. My number 1 play is the very first game of the season. Let's go to Baylor and let's see DJ Fuller here. I was at this game. I was on the sideline. This was really exciting for me. Just as a Wildcat fan, to see us score in such a really big game, and a little up and out route here that was just a really pretty play, and you see how DJ Fuller can really impact a defense here.
He didn't play at all last year.
He didn't. No.
And this reminded us of how good he is. And it was 17-0 at this point. You're thinking, is this going to get away from us? And instead, I agree. I thought this was huge.
And I think it's the biggest play for me of 2018 because of what you said, Grant. It really showed us that we can compete on a different level. And it's just an exciting touchdown play to watch in a really big stadium. And of course on Fox Sports in front of a national audience. It was just a really nice pitch and catch from Luke Anthony to DJ Fuller.
Those are good ones. Five good ones.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hutton. Well, we'll start with my top 5 plays. So I'm going to start out with Southeastern Louisiana, Billy McCrary. He goes 51 yards in the fourth quarter. This play is really good. He cuts up the middle of the line. He makes a linebacker and a safety miss. He utilizes his right side of the field and then eventually cuts up and gets to the end zone. This play, is 51 yards, but the score, in aspects of the scoring, it wasn't really important because they go up 3 touchdowns. They win the game by a lot. That was a really top play in my opinion. Now we go to Nichols. There was a 4th down situation in the fourth quarter. Coach Dorrel gets really gutsy, and I'm on the sideline watching thinking, why don't we just kick a field goal or punt it even? But he goes for it, 4th and 7. Finks makes a falling catch, which is just really an athletic play by him, and they eventually get a touchdown to him, and they win the game 28-12 after that score. So that's really important, and we get the program-defining victory over Nichols.
Josh only had 3 catches in that game, but each one of them was huge.
Was really important.
Yeah.
Typical
obviously.
Josh, yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, Josh, definitely. So now I want to move to HBU.
Okay.
Kind of a lesser-known game. It was another easy victory, 38-13. But we were only up 14-6 at halftime. We come out only 30 seconds into the third quarter. Luke Anthony finds Chase Coakley wide open to the right side of the field, goes all the way down for a 67-yard touchdown pass. This puts them up 21-6, and they eventually end up going to a 38-13 score win over HBU. Now, Adonis Davis in the ASU game for my second play, he makes an interception. I think for me it's the play itself. So Charlie Rotherham rolls out, he finds his receiver over to the right of the end zone, but Adonis Davis establishes position to make that interception on the receiver. I think the play itself for me was just a really athletic play. I don't think really it defined the game because they get a fumble on that next defensive possession and then they score a touchdown, put the game away. But I think this really fired up the team at that point.
Indicative of how he's played all year. He's been terrific,
absolutely. He's been really good in the defensive backfield. So finally, I go take it back to Baylor. Billy McCrary, another play by him, 75 yards in the second quarter. The score makes it 2-possession game, 31-17. And I mean, it's a 75-yard run against Baylor.
Yeah.
Billy McCrary. I mean, it really establishes that they have a good backfield. They don't just have Tracy James. They also figure out they have Tyrese White and then Billy McCrary with this run. It just kind of shows us that their rushing is going to be pretty strong this year.
Well, and it's kind of cool, when you're outrunning Big 12 defensive backs, and beating them to the end zone. He, of course, is a transfer from Cal, so no surprise, but cool to see. And the running game has been a huge part of the season. All right, my 5 guys aren't exactly 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, building to the top play. I just picked 5 that were my favorite. And it's kind of nice to go third and still have 5, at least 5 more to choose from. It's been a great year. I'm going to go back to that Baylor game as well. It's toward the end of the first half. ASU is down by a couple of touchdowns. Less than 2 minutes to go, and you're thinking, let's run the clock out. No, Josh Lamberson calls a Samaje Davis run, then 5 straight completions from Luke Anthony. Then Luke runs it for 12 yards, and we run Oscar Hernandez, who's never kicked in a college game before out there. He'd already made a field goal earlier in the first half. He nails one at the buzzer from 46 yards, and I thought, wow, Nick Grau left last year, one of our all-time best field goal kickers. We didn't know what we were going to get in terms of field goal kicking, and Oscar and Taylor Williamson have both been really good, so I thought that was nice. My second play that I want to talk about is at the Houston Baptist game, Tyrese White. We've talked about Tracy. We've talked about Billy McCrary. Here's the freshman from Hampshire-Fannett High School down in South Texas. He goes 55 yards early fourth quarter. He then tacked on his very next carry was a 54-yard run. So in 2 plays, he almost runs for 100 yards. When you think about our rushing attack this year, we're now in the top 3 in the Southland Conference. Last year, running the ball just was something we couldn't do. Big tip of the cap not only to those 3 backs Samaje Davis has also been terrific running the ball out of the Wildcat, but also our offensive line has been huge. Yes. All right, let's talk about some special teams here. We're going to give those guys some love. My next play comes from that Nichols game at homecoming. Simon Laurier. This is a close game. It's 21-6. The ball goes sailing over his head. The snap does. And oftentimes you'll see a punter fall on the ball and just protect it. Simon picks it up, takes a running start to his right, boots it away. I'm going to call it right now. It's the greatest 23-yard punt in ACU football history. He booted the ball inside the 30, and Nichols had to go a little bit farther to get their score. Well, then just a little bit later, Nichols does find the end zone. It's 21-12, and here's my next play. Jamar Mack, who is a senior. He's been a stalwart on special teams as a defensive back. He's played some linebacker this year because of Quayshawn Washington's injury in the middle of the season. And Jamar comes off the edge, blocks the extra point, and it keeps it 21-12. And you say, well, it's just 1 point. But that's a 9-point lead, so it's two possessions they have to get. Yeah. I'm telling you, as calling the broadcast, it feels different to look up on the scoreboard and see that. And I know talking to players, it felt different. Okay, 21-12 versus, compared to just a one-score game. Okay, last but not least, let's go back to the last game against Southeastern Louisiana. With 5 minutes to go, third quarter, ACU is up 20-10, and Torrin Justice goes up. He gets the lob from Luke Anthony and somehow manages to get a foot in bounds. And the junior college transfer from Trinity Valley Community College comes from Katy, Texas, Stratford High School, first season at ACU. No catches in his first 4 games, but in the last 4 games, he's had 16 catches. 4 of those have been for touchdowns. And when you think about Billy McCrary being a breakout star, to me, Torrin Justice has joined him as a first-year player who's really making some hay. So those are my 5.
I completely agree. Well, those are great picks. Keep it right here. It's the Adam Dorrel Show.
Welcome back to the Adam Dorrel Show. For a check of the latest around the ACU sports world, let's send it over to Max.
Thanks, Grant. We start at Elmer Gray Stadium, where the soccer team had senior night last Friday. The team honored seniors Rachel Johnson, Sophie Standifer, Dylan Owens, Katie Acosta, Chelsea Reedy, and Hannah O'Donnell for their final game on ACU's campus. The seniors left Elmer Gray Stadium on a positive note, beating the Cardinals 1-0. Christina Arteaga came in clutch once again, scoring a goal with 3 minutes left to give her team the victory. Johnson also played well in the net, making 9 saves and recording her 8th shutout of the season. The Wildcats were scheduled to continue its season in the Southland Conference playoffs with a match against McNeese Wednesday. Both the men and women's cross-country teams ran in the Southland Conference Championships last Friday. Carnley Graham finished 6th individually out of 92 runners. Overall, her team placed 8th out of 13 schools. For the men, Levi Chambers had the best finish at 25th out of 88 competitors. His team was 9th overall out of 12 schools. Both teams will have the week off, but will participate in the NCAA South Central Regional Championships next Friday. We take it to the court where the volleyball team faced 2 opponents on the road this weekend. ACU dropped its Thursday game to Houston Baptist 3-1, as well as a Saturday match to Texas A&M Corpus Christi 3-0. Mary Beth Sandercox led her team with 19 kills in the 2 games, and Kendall Bossy earned 61 assists. The team turned around Tuesday at home, however, and beat Nicholls State 3-0. Caitlin Mueller scored 9 kills in the match, and Bossy passed for 27 assists. After the 3 games, the Wildcats are now 10-3 in conference and sit at 4th in the Southland standings. The team was scheduled to face Central Arkansas Thursday and will play SFA today at 1. Finally, it's worth noting that college hoops is back, and this is the last week without it. The men's team will welcome Arlington Baptist to Moody Tuesday evening and will also host Arkansas State Friday. The women's team will begin its season with a game against Southwest College next Friday in Moody as well. With only 3 games remaining in the 2018 football season, a lot of attention turns to who is going to be making the playoffs. We've decided to invite Seth Wilson into the studio to talk about the current state of the Southland Conference. Grant?
Okay, Max, thanks. We brought in Seth Wilson, ACU's video coordinator for athletics, who is as close to these teams as anyone. Talk a little bit about the Southland Conference. Seth, you get to see these opponents that ACU plays week to week up close. And let's talk about the Southland Conference standings, because quite frankly, this isn't something we've needed to talk about in recent years.
For sure.
We're eligible for the postseason for just the second year. And with 3 games to go, ASU has not yet been mathematically eliminated. So let's take a look at the conference standings as they stand going into today's games. McNeese is number 1. We saw them down in Lake Charles.
Yeah,
they're tough.
And they're probably the best defensive team, I would say, in the Southern Conference. And they've only lost 1 game, that coming to UIW a few weeks ago. So that was certainly, we were down at Southeastern kind of paying attention to that game, and that was certainly a shocker within the Southern Conference. So you see Incarnate Word at 4-2. The issue with ACU, if you're looking at, if you're from the Wildcat fan perspective, you see 5 teams there between you and that top spot, and you've already played Incarnate Word and McNeese, who you have lost to already, so that makes it a little tougher. But you look at those 4 teams there at 4-2. 3 of them are ranked. You've got Sam Houston and Incarnate Word playing this weekend, so that essentially becomes an elimination game.
Really does.
And then you look at next week's schedule. ACU is on the road at Sam, so maybe ACU can play spoiler. You've got Incarnate Word at UCA next week. So it looks like things will kind of even out as the teams as we go through the last month here.
McNeese, to me, seems to have the easiest road. We've learned this year, haven't we? There are no easy games in conference. But as you look at McNeese, their schedule coming up these next 3 weeks, starting today, is favorable to them, I think.
Right, and they play teams toward the bottom of the conference standings, but they play 2 of the 3 on the road.
That's
always interesting. You know, you got to go somewhere else and play. You never know, maybe with the travel and things like that, especially in this conference that we've talked about on this show before. So you never know. You've got McNeese playing 2 or 3 on the road, and that last game is at home, but it's a rivalry game with Lamar. So maybe Lamar, you know, they've kind of been eliminated here, but they maybe play for that last week and have maybe their quote-unquote Super Bowl for college football.
Well, and if you're McNeese, the other advantage is, as you mentioned, they've only lost 1 game. That was to Incarnate Word. Incarnate Word would need McNeese to lose 1 more game, and then they would need to win out. But Incarnate Word, they have 2 games left against Sam Houston State and then at Central Arkansas. So Incarnate Word's road is really difficult as well.
And they only play 8 conference games. Everybody else plays 9. So if they're sitting at 6-2 and McNeese finishes, you know, 7-1 or 7-2, McNeese goes
because they've won 1 more game. So here's what we know. We know that ASU has to win its games. And so in that sense, the job is simple for ASU fans as they consider these things. Win your games, and then you just hope for the best with the other teams. Thanks, Seth, for joining us. When we come back, we'll preview today's game against Northwestern State. This is the Adam Dorrel Show. As we welcome you back to the Adam Dorrel Show, check out today's schedule. Huge game down in San Antonio. Postseason implications. Sam Houston State visits Incarnate Word. ASU will play Sam in Huntsville next Saturday. All right, today's game here at Wildcat Stadium. ASU hosting Northwestern State. The Demons are being led by first-year head coach Brad Laird. He's the school's all-time leading passer, but he's built his career as a defensive coach. Their record isn't what they'd like it to be, but they've had a chance, Coach, in almost every game to win, haven't they?
Yeah, they've played very well throughout the year. I mean, obviously they opened with Texas A&M. That was a tough one down in College Station. But other than that, they've been very competitive, been in it. I think they've had a few injuries. If you look at their quarterback position the last couple weeks, it's been a revolving door, which never helps anybody this time of year. But, you know, Brad's a good coach. He brought in some good coordinators, experienced coordinators. And, you know, the thing that I see that I think sticks out to our players, too, is they're playing very hard.
So Northwestern, they boast one of the best passing offenses in the Southern Conference right now. That's mainly due in part to Jazz Ferguson. He's a transfer from LSU. What makes him so difficult to defend? Well,
I think he's got a good skill set. I think he's very versatile in how he runs, how he catches, and he's just a good all-around player. But they're playing a lot of guys right now. If you look at the offensive line, I think they've had some protection issues on the offensive line, which, depending on the week, if that's been shored up, it's kind of coming and going with those guys. But doing a good job rotating backs in and out, tight end, catching some passes as well, too. So they're trying to spread it out.
When your team is on offense against Northwestern State's defense, they've given up a lot of yards per game. They have a knack for taking the ball away, though. And I know turnovers is always your buzzword. It's been, I think, every week. Is it even more so against a team that has that ability to take it away?
Yeah, I think so, Grant. I think if you look early in the year, they were playing a lot of what we call quarters, 2 deep safeties, a lot of zone. And they were getting a lot of interceptions from those kids off tip passes or linebackers or overthrows. It's been unique. We'll have to see what they do tonight because the last 2 weeks they've really switched philosophically, and they've gone to loading the box, trying to stop the run because they were giving up a bunch of running yards, and they're playing pretty much man cover zero every snap. So it's been the tale of two cities for them. First 5 compared to the last 2 weeks. So it'll be interesting to see what we see immediately tonight.
And we've learned, haven't we, throw the records out really in the Southland Conference.
Oh, I agree. I think there's a lot to be desired. I'm playing at home in the Southland Conference, and obviously we're at home. And I do agree with you. I think there's just so much parity right now, and there's so many new coaches, new players in the Southland Conference, and the teams that are showing growth and getting better each and every week, man, they're going to have a chance to win.
Great to be home, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Back at Wildcat Stadium today, ASU hosts Northwestern State. The Wildcats put a 2-game winning streak on the line. We'll have the pregame show on radio beginning at 1:30. For Coach Dorrel and for Max, I'm Grant Boone. Thanks for watching the Adam Dorrel Show. Enjoy the game this afternoon. We'll see you right here next week.